Welcome back in Game Day Sports Radio this Friday morning. Bogie Wood with you, along with Mike Bernard from OTM Sports. We've been talking a little NBA, little bit of everything this morning, but it's time to move to college football. Inside the numbers, Mike, number one, Georgia, unranked Florida in Jacksonville. And of course, it's the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, even though we really are not supposed to call it that anymore. We know what it is. 3:30 p.m. Eastern time on CBS. It's the big SEC game, as it is every year. Now, the Bulldogs, they haven't always looked like back-to-back national champions this year. I mean, we recall the close call at Auburn. They've fallen behind to South Carolina and Kentucky, I believe, early on, but nobody's beaten them. And to be the man, you got to beat the man. Now, this Gator team, it doesn't look like the same team they got manhandled out in Utah to open the season, but I still don't think they're in Georgia's class.
No, I don't either. Georgia's on the 24-game win streak. They're laying 14.5 in this game. And Coach Brock Bowers, I'm not alerting anyone to things they don't know, but that's a huge loss for that offense, especially if he can't come back this season. And but I think Georgia's going to get a win here. This is a spot where I'd normally look to play the underdog. Coach, I just can't trust Billy Napier. It wouldn't surprise me if Georgia wins this game between 14, 15, or 16, somewhere around the number, and it's due to Napier not being incompetent in math.
And we have seen that time and time again.
Right. He went for two. He went for two at 9. It's like, what? Yeah. There's no analytics that say that.
No, none whatsoever. A lot of good games in this 3:30 time slot tomorrow. Number 8, Oregon at number 13, Utah. That's 3:30 kick on Fox. The Ducks, they rebounded from that Washington loss with a win over Washington State. The Utes, they picked up a huge win over USC in the Coliseum. They own the Trojans right now for whatever it's worth. The Ducks, you look at them, they're favored on the board, but, Rice-Eccles Stadium is kind of a different kind of place to play. However, it's not a night game. Rice-Eccles is totally different that night than it is in the afternoon. But it looks like Oregon's a slight favorite here right now.
Well, they're 6.5-point favorite, which is, pretty hefty. Yeah. Total is 47. And that's a good point about Rice-Eccles in the afternoon as opposed to a night game. Same with, let's say, Kinnick Stadium in Iowa. I mean, that's where those type venues at night, that's where the top-ranked teams go to die. Right. And, so the Ducks get a little bit of a break there. But as you said, Utah, they've won 3 of the last 5 meetings. They own the series. They've won 3 straight over Oregon at Rice-Eccles. And the point spread tells me that Utah is going to cover, but I can't commit to that. And, Coach, it's hard to say, but Bo Nix, I mean, he's a great player and a great kid, but this surprised me. But he started more games at college football than anyone in college football history. And I think that experience is going to, help the Ducks in this game.
Yeah, I saw that tidbit last week during the broadcast, and it really surprised me. I knew he had started, every game that he had been in college, but I didn't realize he had set the record. But kudos for him. Another 3:30 Eastern time kick. This one on ESPN. Number 20 Duke at number 18 Louisville. The Cards, where they were off last week after that puzzling loss to Pitt. Riley Leonard, Duke quarterback, if he doesn't re-injure his ankle against Florida State, the Blue Devils, they beat the Seminoles. I have no doubt about that. I like Duke if Leonard plays. If he doesn't, I like Louisville. Duke says he's day-to-day. What that tells me is he's not going to play. And of course, Louisville is a slight favorite now at home. 3.5, 4?
Right there. Well, actually, there's a 4. I see some 4.5s, and I see a 5 at Circa. And you're talking about that's a good point there, Coach. Remember, to our viewers, there's no universal line. Every
Right.
casino has it different. So you always want to shop around if you're going to play these games and don't settle for what what ESPN tells you. Find the best number.
Mhm.
And you, Coach, you talked about the injury report, and Duke said he's questionable. I've had it with injury reports and all the disinformation. Uh, it's these college coaches don't have a lot of guidelines they have to abide by.
Right.
And they'll say, oh, this guy's out. And then if you don't have inside information, you could get caught in a bad spot. But as far as this game, look, this is a much different Duke team. They can run the ball, they can stop the run, they can actually stop the pass too. They have one of their best defenses in recent memory.
Uh-huh.
But I see Louisville rebounding here. And if I had to play the game on the point spread, I would probably lay 4.
All right, well, let's move on to the next ESPN matchup. They're just going to roll them out on Saturday. Number 21 at Kentucky, or number 21 Tennessee at Kentucky, and that's a 7 p.m. Eastern time on kick on ESPN. Both these teams come in at 5-2. Both lost last week. Of course, the Vols, they blew a big lead and opportunity to beat Alabama back-to-back, but they just did not show up in the second half. Wildcats, they lost by 19 at home to Missouri, who is better than I expected. But Tennessee has owned this series overall, and, of course, they're favored on the road in Lexington.
Yeah, Vols were outscored 27-0 in the second half in Tuscaloosa. Those are always tough games to come back from. A loss in a big game. In this game, Tennessee opened 5. They're down to 3.5. But Kentucky, they also got throttled in the fourth quarter. They got outscored 18-0.
Yeah.
They got beat down by Missouri, which was an impressive win by the Tigers. But they won that fourth quarter 18-0, and that's unlike any Stoops team to do that. Both teams got to be lacking confidence here. I like over 51, even though Kentucky's run game and defense is solid.
Moving on to the 7:30 p.m. kick on ABC, it's going to be Colorado at number 23 UCLA. Of course, that game is played in the Rose Bowl, where UCLA, since they don't have an on-campus stadium, that's where they play their home games. The open date, it kind of allowed the Buffs to regroup after losing in double overtime to Stanford. And then after that big Stanford win, they go in to play UCLA, and they had no gas in the tank. UCLA won that game 42-7. Coach Prime, he's changing the culture in Colorado, but it's again, and his deal is let's build the hype, and he's built the hype, and he still builds the hype, but the substance hasn't caught up to the hype yet, because that defense, they couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat.
Yeah, no doubt. They've allowed 35 points or more in all but 2 games this year. The Stanford loss was inexcusable, but the Buffs have a chance to go bowling after years of being a doormat. And UCLA's favored by 16. They have a great defense. You don't normally say that about UCLA. Remember, the Jim Mora teams were giving up 300 yards a game and on the ground. So that defense has come a long way. They've only allowed more than 17 points one time this year. So Bruins, I think they're going to keep Deion's offense in check here. It's too big of a number for me to lay, but because UCLA's offense isn't great, but I like UCLA to win.
Of course, we talked about these 5. Any other games that you look at and say, that's kind of interesting?
Yeah, I've got a lot of these games are just what point spread tells you to play.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I know Florida State looks like a machine, but the point spread and some other factors say Wake Forest. Same with some off the radar games such as Wyoming. I like Wyoming plus the number. And then one other game is Texas State's in a good spot against Troy.
Yep. TJ Finley, the old LSU Auburn quarterback, having a good year for Texas State.
Yeah, and look, not a lot of people know about them because how long have they been 1A? or FBA. It's not
Yeah.
been what 5-6 years,
Yeah, not
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 long.
very long. Of course, they were the old Southwest Texas state back in the Division II days. Won national championships under Jim Wacker there. Dennis Franchione coached at Southwest Texas. So, they one of those programs that has went up, spent time at the 1AA or at FCS level, as they want to label it now, and then made that move into SBS and improved their facilities. And the commitment is there at that institution, and they'll be good at that at that mid major level. Never going to be up there in the Power Five place, but they're going to be a good, solid FBS program, much like Troy has been.
Yeah, and Texas San Antonio as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Texas San Antonio's played and beaten some big name teams, some larger group of 5 teams. And no, look, in Texas, the passion for the football is there, and if you have a few boosters that are willing to pay a little bit, yeah, they'll make it happen.
Yeah, ask Jimbo about those boosters pay. They'll do it out there. All right,
Yeah,
Mike, we appreciate your time as always, and we'll be back with you again on Monday morning. Have a good work weekend. We'll chat back in with you bright and early on Monday morning.
sounds great. Have a great weekend, Coach.
All right, now, Mike Bernard, OTM Sports out in Vegas.